Hey everyone, this is Doug and Brad from the Darksliders podcast.
Hi.
So, this week is kind of a down week. There's really not a whole lot going on in video games. There's some more Konami nonsense and just really not a whole lot else other than that. So,
hmm
me and Doug have been talking, and we decided it'd be kind of fun to put together a list of our 100 favorite games.
hmm
So we're going to take some time this week and probably sometime in the next couple of weeks, depending on if there's another down week or not, to go through these lists, and we'll put them up on our website, which is darksiderspodcast.wordpress.com, I think.
I promise we're not going through all 100. So I feel
Oh,
like some
dear
people
God,
might have
no.
been like, click, bye.
Screw that noise. So basically the plan is this week we're just going to look at games 100 through 25, and we're just going to we both looked at each other's list and picked out some weird or interesting or complete nonsense that the other person had in their top 100 games here, just to kind
hmm
of talk about as we made these. But
hmm
before we get to that, I just kind of want to talk about, what did you think about when you made your list, and how did you set this up?
I well, the first thing I thought of was this is my favorite games. This is not a list of the best games ever. Because I fully acknowledge that some of these games, like as how they're rated, like some of these games are better to me, but I know that they're not better games, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No,
Like there's some
absolutely.
there's some games I have on my list that are like ridiculously high that I know like there's some people out there who probably would, but they're like way above games that are much much better than them.
Oh, I have the same thing. There are games that I just I could sit down and talk for hours about because I love them so much. And then if you were
hmm
to pull up like the Metacritic page, it'd be like 70 out of 100.
Yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. And I always felt like because I was thinking about like the best games ever list as well, and like best games ever list, I feel like nobody's favorite games match the best game ever. Like that best game ever list doesn't really. I mean, it matters if you're thinking about video games as an industry, but like as people's personal preferences, like doesn't matter at all.
I think of it like the Oscars. Like, nobody sits here and goes, whatever shitty art movie won the best picture for the
Okay,
Oscars
what the
is the
what?
is their
No,
favorite movie. Seriously,
no,
that's
that
the way I
okay,
look at
no,
it.
that's ridiculous. No, that's no. Well, I
Those movies are great movies, but let's be real. Star Wars and the Avengers and that kind of nonsense is way more fun and entertaining.
That's true. I'll agree. That's kind of like I was thinking my list. Like somebody's top 100 list could be like 20 Call of Duty games, and like
Yeah, okay.
that's
That's
totally
actually
their
something I want to
list
talk
too.
about. That's kind of what I want to talk about here. So, one thing that before we get into this, I want to talk about, because when I was looking at Doug's list, we both kind of did this differently. Is
hmm
when it came to games and like series we absolutely love.
Yeah.
So you actually like included a lot of individual games. So at one point in
hmm
Doug's list, he has Tony Hawk's Underground, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and that is 47, 48, 49 right in a row.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this, and the reason I grouped them is because I all felt they gave me a very similar experience. Um, so like that feeling of Tony Hawk is my favorite thing. It's this idealized version of Tony Hawk. So those all sort of fit. Like Tony Hawk as this thing is in my top 50 like favorite games. But then
Yeah.
like you have to like kind of zoom in on that idea of Tony Hawk. It's like, okay, I have this little kind of block of Tony Hawk. Okay, now I can sort of switch it around. They'll have kind of a similar experience, but I can sort of switch them out within the series itself.
Which is really interesting to me because then I look and you have Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 5 all like way far apart from each other.
Well, Tony Hawk, I mean, Tony Hawk gives a very similar experience throughout the game. That's like a very evolutionary series. While Metal Gear Solid, well, it's also evolutionary, has very different, like Metal Gear Solid sneaky gameplay is very different than Metal Gear Solid 2 sneaky gameplay, which is
True.
very different than Metal Gear Solid 3, which is very different than 4, very different than 5. They're a lot different. It's kind of like it's not as extreme as Final Fantasies, like Final Fantasies are very different games.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of put, like, that's why I felt like Tony Hawk kind of gave me the same experience every time, while Metal Gear Solid gave me a different experience every time. So yeah, that was kind
That
of my
makes sense.
thinking behind it. I think you actually put them together as I think you sort of put yours together as well, didn't
So
you?
the only ones I did that with, I basically just I tried to look at each game on its own. Some of them ended up near each other. The only ones I can tell you that I did that with, and you won't see these because we've only shown each other 25 through 100, is
Hmm.
I did it with games where I was like, damn it, I love this whole series. And I basically did it because my top 10 would have otherwise looked like Halo, 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 other game, Gears of War, Gears of War, Gears of War. So
Yeah.
to avoid that list of like 20 things, so I just went Halo 1 through 4. This one was probably the best of those, is basically what I did.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I
that
mean,
took
I
up
probably
one
could have
spot
done
on
that.
my list because I was just like, otherwise I felt like I could I mean, there goes like half of my top, or 10 out of my 100 games would probably be Halo, Gears of War games. And I was just like,
Oh, seriously? I didn't even know you liked the series. I know you like Halo a lot. I didn't realize you like Gears that much too.
oh no, I love Gears of War, except
Why the
Judgment.
hell do
That
you
one
have a
was kind of okay.
PS4?
Because there was, that's a different conversation. But anyway, um, so let's kind of get into this. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna start here. One thing that I'm curious about, because I have zero of these, is you have a crap ton of arcade games in your top 100 games ever.
Yeah.
Like Time Crisis,
Hmm.
some Jurassic Park thing that I don't know what that is, so I'm probably missing
Jurassic,
something there.
Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
Silent Scope.
Yeah,
I think those are all of it. Point Blank, which I've never heard of. So
that's ridiculous. You can't have a podcast and not know Point Blank. But anyway, continue.
I'm just curious, like, because these to me are games that you couldn't have spent more than a couple hours with, right?
Yeah, but I was also thinking, like, when I was going through my list, I was thinking, like, which of these games would I like to put in and play right now? And if I'm at an arcade and I see Time Crisis, like, I'm gonna play Time Crisis. If I see Silent Scope, I'm gonna play Silent Scope. And Point Blank is a special one, because when I was in college, there's an arcade by my house, and literally every day from class, I would walk by it, and I got really, really, really good at Point Blank, which is it's just a dumb like little light gun game, but I'm like stupid good at that game. And I don't know, that's like one of my favorite light gun games ever. Well, I'm surprised you didn't have any arcade games. Like, you don't have like any childhood things of being in the arcade and like, oh,
See,
I love Marvel vs. Capcom or
see, I
you know.
do, but I don't feel like I put enough time into those. Like I looked more of it as like a what games can I look back and go, I put a crap ton of time into this, or I had a ton of fun with this. Most arcade games, there are very few I can think of. Like when I walked into an arcade, I went, "Ooh, I have to play that." Like I don't have those. There's
Did you
the
have consoles
Simpsons
as a
game.
kid?
Yeah.
Oh, see, I didn't. So like I
Oh,
only
that
got to play
completely
video.
changes it then.
Yeah, so I only got to play video
Okay.
games, I
Well,
would say, until I was like 12 at arcades.
oh, okay. Yeah, I got my Super Nintendo when I think I was 7.
Yeah, no.
So
See, I was.
so that would first. Okay. Well, that completely puts that point into play there. All right.
Yeah,
So
so
all my
arcade
Super
games sort of have something
Nintendo.
special, but like when I go to arcade now, I don't really care. Like it's
Yeah,
like okay.
see, and that's the attitude I've had forever. Is like, oh, we're going to the arcade. It's like, oh, cool. There's some games I've never played before, and I try them and go, that was fun. I wonder when I can get that for my Sega Genesis.
Yeah, no, mine was like I'm never gonna play this game except for this like next 5 minutes.
Yeah, like Silent Scope is a Dreamcast game.
Yeah, for kids who could own a Dreamcast. Yeah, that's I mean that's why I put it in there because I thought arcade was sort of a special experience for me. But I can understand like,
Okay.
but if you had those, if you and like, so I'm missing like a whole generation of like Super Nintendo. Like there's, I think there was like maybe one or two Super Nintendo games on here.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any Genesis games, like nothing before PlayStation really, because I just didn't have the experience with those games. They might be better games. I just like I never played Super Metroid, so it's not on there. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm sure it's a good game. Just, it's not my
Yeah.
favorite
7-year-old me was not super into Super Metroid.
game. Yeah, some of these games now, I feel like going back, I feel like I'd either appreciate more or be like, this was definitely time in a bottle when I was like 10. This game was
Oh yeah,
awesome.
for sure. And that was kind of one of the things I thought about when I was making mine too. Is like, man, I haven't played this game in probably like 7 or 8 years,
Hmm.
but I remember it being crazy awesome.
Hmm. Yeah, it's probably not. Some of these do hold up though. I was kind of like going back and playing small PlayStation games. I'm surprised how some of them actually do hold up.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to start getting into your list. Like we're actually going to get starting into numbers and things like that. And I feel like you put 100. I feel like you just want to put this on the list. I feel like this isn't actually your top 100. And if you actually made a real top 100 list, Final Fantasy 13 would not be at your top 100.
Okay. It is number 100 exactly. And
Yeah,
here's my thinking with it: is I went through and I went, You know what? I really love the Final Fantasy series, right? It's
Yeah.
great. I love Final Fantasy. I've played 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 2, 12, Tactics, 13, 13 2. Like, I've played most of them. And what I was trying to do here is I was trying to figure out, okay, which one of those do I really, really love? And I love Final Fantasy X. We've talked about that on the podcast before.
Yeah.
Um, the only Final Fantasy game I have finished other than Final Fantasy X is Final Fantasy 13 and 13-2. So in my mind, I'm sitting here going, I love this series, and this was one of 2 games out of the maybe 8 to 10 that I've played that I actually finished. It has to deserve a place here. And that's why it's exactly 100. Because like you said, it's not best games. That game is not great. But for some reason, I beat that game completely. Like, all the way
Yeah.
through everything. And the only other Final Fantasy game I've done that with is 10, which is one of my all-time favorite games. So I figured,
Yeah.
well, it needs a place somewhere.
At 100, I guess it's okay. I just think it's funny because I'm sure there's people on this podcast, like, we're old enough that we probably could have played Final Fantasy VI when it came out, but we just didn't.
Yep. Yeah,
So,
yep. Mm-hmm. I started playing Final Fantasy games like when they came out at, I believe, 9. I think was the first one that I got like right around when it came out.
oh, okay, yeah. Yeah,
So
Final Fantasies are always kind of weird. I just remember the only real memory I have of Final Fantasy was playing Final Fantasy VII, the first turn-based game I ever played, and was just thinking, why can't I attack these guys and why can't I block? This is dumb.
I can see
And
that.
I still sort of hold those prejudices against turn-based games.
But yeah, so totally not one that deserves probably to be one of the 100 best games ever, but it felt like it needed a place as I was thinking about Final Fantasy, because
hmm
I had to have enjoyed it if it's one of the only ones that I've actually been willing to sink the time in to finish.
Yeah, I can I can sort of understand the logic there. Actually, I was looking through this list. I don't know if I've actually beaten all of the games on my top 100, because the arcade games I
Oh,
definitely have. Dab not.
see, and that's an interesting point too, because I know there's a couple on mine that I haven't for sure, and I know I haven't, but I enjoyed playing them for what I played of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I remember like as a kid, like when like playing games, like you had to beat games. Like that was just like you had to beat them. Like because you didn't really get I didn't get a lot of games growing up. So like I had to beat them. Like that was I don't know. There's like something in me that had to beat them. And now, I mean, I don't know if you felt that as a kid.
Yeah, I think it's more of just like a time and resources wise.
Yeah.
If I'm bored with the game, I go, all right, screw this. I'm gonna go buy this. Like, 12-year-old
Mhm.
year old me was like, okay, I bought this. This is the game I have to play for the next month or so, so I
Yeah.
better get used to it.
Yeah. And now I kind of play a game until I've stopped enjoying it, which means even though I haven't beaten the game or maybe only played 50% of it, that 50% I really, really enjoyed. I think
Mhm.
we're gonna talk about Metal Gear Solid 5 later. But I have like no desire to continue on for there. But that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy that time. That doesn't mean like that experience I had wouldn't still rank that game in my top 100, even though the entire game as a whole probably wouldn't be on a top 100 list.
Yeah, I got you. And yeah, that's kind of what I went with too. And especially now, like, if I'm bored with the game, it's gone. I don't, I'm not giving you the time.
Yeah,
Um,
disposable income, man.
All right, so one that I'm curious about, because this game, I thought about this game as I was making my list, and I was like, I can't. In my mind, I couldn't remember my feelings about it enough to do
Yeah.
anything with it. At number 87, you have Pokemon Snap.
Oh. I okay. First of all, I never owned an N64. I've definitely never beaten Pokemon Snap. I think I've played maybe the first 3 levels, like in total.
God. So you played this game like a half hour.
Yeah, but okay. But the thing is, like, it honestly, my most vivid memory of this game is playing it at Toys R Us. um,
You put a game in your 100 favorite games that you only played at Toys R Us?
dude, I'm not kidding. I seriously consider putting a few demos on here. Like,
Dear God.
Unreal Tournament 2004 demo almost made my top 100
Okay.
list.
I played the shit out of that demo. That's a
That was
good
a
point. I
good
didn't even think
demo.
about
That's
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got like 4 or 5 maps, and it was basically just free online play on those like 4 or 5 maps, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And that was like,
Oh
yeah, that
man,
was
I
kind of
played the
like a
shit out of
groundbreaking
that
game
game.
for
That
its
was a
time
great
too, because they had
demo.
like huge maps and stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, see, but that probably should go on my top 100 list. Is on no tournament demo. Um, but anyway, we're talking about Pokemon Snap.
Yeah.
Uh, Pokemon Snap was probably the first game I ever remember seeing where it felt like a living world that you were kind of going into. I felt like most games until that point, I kind of felt like I was, you're playing checkers isn't the best way to describe it, but you see the gameplay mechanics and you're playing to the game mechanics rather than the story or the world or whatever
Yeah.
else. But Pokemon Snap, because it didn't really have like super strong game mechanics. I mean, it's just taking pictures and like you hit stuff and like that's about it. So I entirely relied on the world it was building, and without like there's not a lot of dialogue in it either. Like when you're actually like in the levels, there's no dialogue. It's just Pokemon like just living and walking around. And that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, like this is I don't know. That was like the first time I was like, this is the future of games. Was Pokemon
Pokemon
Snap?
Snap, the
Yeah,
future of
no.
video games.
But I mean, think about this now. Like when you play games like I don't know, like Grand Theft Auto, like there's a lot of stuff that happens around you that is kind of inconsequential to the story. Like people kind of walk around and talk, or
Yeah.
people like kind of hit each other with cars, or like this, or there's like car accidents or something happens in those worlds that doesn't have anything to do with the game itself. Um, and and that's what I kind of liked about that game is like it kind of felt like you were sort of like entering a space rather than playing a game.
I got you. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. That's a game that I know I played a lot of it, and it's just looking back on it in my mind, it's like I remember being like enthralled with it, like and putting
Hmm.
hours into this game. But in the back of my mind, it's just like, was it just because I was like 10 and I was like, oh my god, it's a Pokemon? Or was it actually like I don't know. I struggled with that because I came across that game when I was looking at like just like going through old systems, like looking at games I had, and that was one that kind of stuck out to me. Like, oh, I put so much time into that, but I don't remember enough about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like even now, like I probably wouldn't go back and play it because I know, because like this is on my top 100 because it was my number one game as like a I don't know 8 year old or whatever.
Yeah, I got you.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, so it deserves a spot on here. Um, yeah. Oh, so what I thought was kind of interesting because I actually really like this game. So that's why I kind of want to talk about it. For number 64, you put Bulletstorm.
Oh yeah,
I'm surprised you put that so high. Not that I don't like that game. I don't think it made my top 100 list. I did
no, it
enjoy it.
did
It's like
not. Or
why'd
it's
you
not on where at least you're showing, unless it's top 25.
No, it's definitely not in the top 25. But yeah, I'm so why'd you like this game so much? Because a lot of people don't. I feel like a lot of people don't know how good Bulletstorm is.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those games that has just a weird reputation to it. Like
Oh, it,
the game
very weird.
basically, yeah. So it is more of a smaller game. So it's by Epic, and I don't, or no, it's by
No,
People
it's
Can
not.
Fly. It's by People Can
Yeah,
Fly, who were like it was published by Epic, and they helped with it or something. I don't remember the exact details, but
yeah,
I know Epic
they
was
did the
involved.
tech stuff for it, and it was made by guys who did Painkiller, and this is the game
Yeah,
that people mostly know because of the swearing in it.
yeah, Dick Tits.
Dick tits, yeah, that's
Yeah. I don't know. This game just had such a unique and competitive like single player game, and just the way
Oh, I
that
could
the
see that. Yeah.
combat system worked, and just it was such a unique experience, and it was such a fun experience that I love it. So
Hmm.
I mean, the game basically rewards you for using different weapons, killing guys in different ways, doing all these different creative environment interaction pieces, and
Hmm.
the score pops up right there, and the characters are all about like doing all this crazy shit, and just everything goes so well together, and the gameplay is just completely solid. I don't can't remember
Yeah.
the story to save my life. I'm pretty sure it's like you crash landed on this planet. Let's get off this planet.
Oh, actually, I want to talk about the story. When keep going, but I'll talk
Really?
about that one a little bit later.
So,
Yeah.
but just the way that the game works and the scoring system that's built in, and it's fun. It's one of those
Yeah.
games that it's not great. This would be one of those games on my list where I will tell you this is not one of the 100 best games ever. This should not be
Yeah.
preserved in a museum of gaming greatness.
Oh, it
This is
should.
just a game that is fun as shit to sit down and play with.
Yeah, it's kind of like Super Meat Boy in that like it's like got really really good mechanics. Um, actually no, this is not like Super Meat Boy because I love the story in this game. I know you
What
kind of
was
like
the
lost.
story?
Okay, so the story starts. I'll try to be really brief about this. You are part of a group of mercenaries, and you get set up to
Yep.
assassinate who you think is like a newspaper guy who's being bought out, but it turns out you kill this head of this company because he is about to rat on your boss. So your boss then kills your entire crew. Like the opening scene is your boss killing all of your crew. And so the whole thing is like this revenge mission, and one of your crew members lives, and he hates you because he knows that it's your fault that all of his friends are dead.
Yep.
So as you go through, like, I think the game just set up a really, really good villain. I don't remember, they make the villain horrible. He's such a good villain. I can't remember exactly why though. I just
See,
remember,
and that was the
like,
thing. It's like I don't remember the story. Like it can't be that great of a story if I don't remember much more other than you crash landed on this really pretty planet. You're mercenaries.
yeah.
Somebody's pissed at you.
I don't remember the story, but I just remember really hating the bad guy. Because, like, a lot of games, I'm like, oh, that bad guy, he sure is bad. But, like, I just remember in Bulletstorm, like, I want to blow that dude's head off. Like, and, like, most of the games, you're like, oh, like, Final Fantasy games, like, it's like, okay, I guess I'll stop the world from ending because that's what they do. But this guy, like, you really feel like this guy, like, constantly screws you over, like, multiple times throughout the game. And there's a point where you actually have to work with him. And I really hated working with him. So I remember that game because the gameplay was fun. I just remember there was a guy I just really, really hated, and that was surprising to me because I don't usually hate villains.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's just a great game. I don't know. It just has such a bad reputation because I think it came out and people went, "Oh, that's the game with the stupid swear words and the crazy violence, right?" And it's
Yeah.
like, no, that's in there, but it's also the really entertaining, really unique single player based around kill scores game,
hmm
and
Oh,
just people shortchange it.
Did you hear why the swearing was so weird in that game?
I don't remember. I know they said they kind of wanted to be creative with it and create their own stuff.
They Yeah, they did, but they were also Polish, so they didn't realize it would sound super weird. They thought they were just like having fun with swear words. Um, so like they were kind of creating like creative swear words. And I thought that'd be a fun thing, but like when you're an English speaker, it sounds super weird.
So
And they're not.
basically,
They
it'd be
don't.
like if somebody put a list of French swear words in front of me and I went, let's combine that one, and we'll put this one here. And
Yeah, exactly. And like to you, I'm sure in Polish, like that makes sense to do. It just doesn't translate very well to English, and that's why that game now has a reputation for that.
yeah. All right. So on your list at number 45
Mhm.
is The Wolf Among Us.
Oh yeah.
This is another one that I love this game, and it is not
Mhm.
in my top 100, and I don't remember why.
It is in your
But
top 100. That's actually I have it here. It's
oh,
54.
oh, well, that's a game that's in my top 100, and I really like that game too. But anyway, okay. My question with this is, and we talked about this briefly before the podcast started,
Mhm.
is why that, not The Walking Dead? Because I feel like The Walking Dead would be the popular pick here.
Actually, I'm really glad too because you put this above Walking Dead as well.
Did I put
And
The Walking
that's
Dead in
actually why.
mine?
Huh?
Did I put The Walking Dead in mine?
You did. Did you even look at your
Oh,
list?
damn, I did. Yeah, shit.
um,
Anyway,
I Okay, so I like The Walking Dead. It's not in my top 100, but I remember when I first played, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of a cool, unique experience." But it was a zombie game,
yep.
and zombie games have zombie stories, and people get bit, and people get die, and people get shot in the head, and people turn, and people get okay. Slight spoiler: there's cannibals. Like that's in like a lot of zombie stories. So not just not just The Walking Dead. That's
And that
like
game's
pretty
been given away
unanimous.
for free so many times. If you haven't played, it's your own fault.
Yeah. Yeah. So as I like the game, I like the choices that they gave it. I didn't like the universe. And then Wolf Among Us comes along and it has all the cool stuff from Walking Dead, like the choice and stuff, but it has a super, super cool universe and it looks effing gorgeous. Um, I just found it really intriguing, I guess, because I had never heard of the property Fables before starting it. So I really didn't know. So like
Okay.
a lot of my time in the game was spent like exploring the world and trying to understand it. While with Walking Dead, I was like, okay, it's zombies, so that it doesn't have that mystery to it. So this is like that gameplay, those choices from Walking Dead in a universe where you really don't know what your choices do.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with that because that was my thought too. With this is The Walking Dead. I guess I did. I couldn't remember if it was close or if I ended up putting it in there because I debated that one for a while. But that
Hmm.
one, the only thing I can sit down and I can say that that game that separates itself from most other games is the ending of that game. That's one of the few games where I sat down at the end and went, "Damn, okay then." Like,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
had such a hitting ending to it that
Hmm.
it makes the overall experience feel better.
In
Whereas
a
the
few
Wolf,
ways, yeah. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna spoil the ending or anything like that, but there's a few story beats with the ending. Like I know the part you're talking about. There's a few other like how some of the character stories kind of wrap up. It's one of those things where you kind of feel like, did you do the right? It's like it definitely makes you question, did you do the right thing? And I
Yeah,
think that's what the Walking Dead tries to do. Like these Telltale games try to do in general is like, did you do the right thing? And Wolf Among Us does not give you a solid answer at the end at all.
no, not at all. And again, I think that's what separates it. And like you said, I feel like if I was more knowledgeable of Fables, I'd have a very different feeling to it. The only
Hmm.
thing I knew with Fables is Walking Dead season 1 they used to play commercials for the comic book. And that's the
Oh,
only thing I
really?
remember. Yeah, they did. Like there was like it must have been right around when it started or something. I still know nothing about the Fables comic books, but
Yeah.
just going in there and seeing the way these characters interacted and just seeing the way this world works, 'cause it's kind of that hidden world in the real world type thing. Just
Hmm.
I don't know, something about it just felt better. It almost seems like they took what they did in The Walking Dead and they just refined it to the point where every episode had those really meaningful moments that the
Hmm.
ending of Walking Dead season 1 had.
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah. That's probably that's the best thing I could say about it. Like you know what's really funny is I actually had a really miserable time with this game with technical issues, and I honestly just forgot about it until now, and it's still in my top 100 list. Like this game is effing miserable technically on PS3. It crashes all the time. It's just terrible. But even
I do
so, like
remember
this
now that you
game,
say that. I think I had a couple of the same issues too.
yeah. But this game is so good. It's like it just goes so beyond that stuff. I know the characters are interesting. Everything about this, and the thing I like too is in Walking Dead, you make choices as though you would make them because The Walking Dead essentially takes place in the real world.
Yeah.
And people die by the same rules. But in Wolf Among Us, because people can't die, but they more horrible things can possibly happen to them. I thought it was really weird because sometimes that's what I was saying before. Is like you really don't know what your decisions make because you don't totally understand the rules of this universe.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Sorry, Wolf Among Us is on my list. I don't know if this did you introduce that to me? Because I put that.
Yeah, I did, and then I realized that oh shit, that's on my list is about the same spot. So we basically just talked about a game we both really like. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's kind of boring in the
No,
concept of
no, no,
this
no.
thing. But
Let's cut
anyway,
that.
go for it.
Actually, we're gonna talk about another game we like. Because I actually put this on my list too after a long, hard, like thinking about it. South Park: Stick of Truth
Yeah,
is. You have it at number 60. I don't know what I have it on my list, but I know it's on there somewhere.
I
Uh,
think you might even have it in the 40s. I think it was a little bit higher than I had it.
it was
No,
pretty
yours is
high.
70.
Okay,
71.
yeah. So okay, so we got the same spot, but South Park: Stick of Truth is a game that I didn't expect to be good. I rented it because I thought it was gonna be crap, and um, I think that this will be really quick. The South Park: Stick of Truth is probably the best use of the South Park property.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I'm just gonna put a
I
period
think.
after that. It's like a perfect amalgamation of like if because I don't know, we both watch South Park, I assume.
I actually don't too much. I did when
Oh, really?
we were like roommates in college for a year, and that was about the
Yeah.
only year I've ever watched more than like an episode or two of South Park here or there. Like I've maybe seen 40 or 50 South Park episodes. That's it.
Are you serious? I'm surprised this one gets on your list. Why does this one get? This is actually it's less interesting to me as a South Park fan liking this. Why do you like this one?
Just because it's fun. Like again, that was my thing with this list is like if it entertained me, if it was fun, if I put the time into it, if I look back and I had a good experience with that, that's what I looked for. And
Hmm.
just this game is so ridiculous. It just I think like the reason people really get into South Park is because it plays on like the tropes and it plays on those types of things that the media they have likes. From the moment I played the demo of this and the demo, or I don't know if it was a demo, or it might even have been a 15-minute gameplay video that came out like 2 weeks beforehand. I was
Yeah.
not planning on getting in this, and as soon as it set up, like, okay, which character are you gonna pick? Are you gonna pick this one or? And it's like,
Oh
okay,
yeah, yeah.
and it's just like the most like obscenely like generic things. It's just like, oh, now you got to hit him with a stick. get your ass over here, let me hit you with a stick again. Like as soon
Yeah.
as it did that, I was like, sold. I don't even care what the rest of this is. That to
Yeah.
me is awesome. I'm playing a video game that is making fun of video games while doing the things that it's making fun of. And just that whole idea to me is fantastic.
Yeah, and it could have like really blown up in their faces too, because like that
Oh,
could have
completely.
sucked.
Yes, completely. And somewhere or another it worked. And I don't know, I have up and down feelings about the gameplay. It's solid, it's easy. It's one of the easiest games I've ever played.
It's
I
too
don't think
easy.
I've
I think was the only issue I had with it. It was too
yeah,
easy.
yeah, but the combat system I liked, everything I liked. It's just it's easy, but to me that doesn't necessarily hamper an experience to me. Like Wolf Among Us we just talked about. That's an easy game. It's hard to mess that game up.
Yeah.
Pokemon Snap, it's hard to mess up Pokemon Snap. You know what I mean? Like, and
Hmm.
that to me doesn't necessarily hinder it. So I don't know. It's just a fun game. My issue with South Park is just if I don't feel like I get the initial reference, I don't care about the episode. Like if it's an episode about something I don't care about,
Oh
I have
yeah, yeah, yeah.
no entry point into that episode, and that's why it's just like, eh. At this point, going back and watching old ones, it's going to be outdated references anyway. It's going to be talking about something that might not even be relevant anymore. That's
Hmm.
my issue with South Park. But this, because it's playing on video games and it's doing that South Park take on this, it just
Yeah.
and it works so well. I loved it.
Yeah, I think it works really good as a parody of, like you were saying, video games and stuff as well. And it does like a, because the thing I'm surprised why you liked it, because there's a lot of callbacks to South Park stuff. Just like every item you pick up is a callback to another episode. And I feel like that would be like completely lost on some people. Be like, what? I don't, okay. Because even I've seen all the South Park episodes. And even like a lot of the items I picked up, like I didn't remember that episode. I was like, oh, okay. Like I feel like there's some parts like just wouldn't have worked if you weren't like a super hardcore South Park fan. But it was funny enough. Like I think the story was pretty original. Like it had a lot of new stuff that you hadn't seen in South Park before. It used a lot of stuff that you had seen in South Park before to like in really smart ways. One of the things I thought was really interesting about the game is that it's the first time they ever actually had to map out South Park, the town.
Oh yeah, yep.
Uh, and they had never done that before, and it's actually carried over into the new season. Like that map is like now the official South Park map.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and like and like a lot of the newer seasons like to carry over. Actually, a lot of new season stuff carries over from some of the games. I don't know. This was just like honestly, this kind of reminds me of like Arkham Asylum and stuff. It's just like the perfect version of that property.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so this is one that I'm just curious about,
Hmm.
mostly because it's a game that I absolutely love. And it's another one of those games where it's like I don't know why people like but this is like one of those games that I think like people from our generation just hold in such high esteem, and that's Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh yeah.
But like why? Cuz I don't even know. I don't remember where this ended up on my list, but it's on my list somewhere. And it's one of those things that like as soon as I saw it on yours I was like, okay, I feel like if you were born in like the late 80s, early 90s and you had a
Hmm.
like computer when you were like 10 to 15, this was the game.
Yeah, I don't even like sim games. I don't like
And that
sim
was my other
games.
thing is because I know you hate those
I hate
games.
those games. The Roller Coaster Tycoon is the only game I like of those here of like those kind. Like I don't like Tycoon games. I don't like RTSs. I don't know what it is about that game. I really don't. I don't know. I don't even have much to say about it because I don't know why I like that game. Um, Holy crap! Why do I like Roller Coaster Tycoon? That's too deep a question for me. I wasn't expecting us to go this deep into the human psyche. I I don't know. I feel like that game was like one of those few games of its. You know what it is? Okay, I think in sort of the PS3 era, they started that whole like build your own levels in the game uh
Yeah, yeah.
kind of aspect. And Roller Coaster Tycoon, I think was like the first game I ever felt like I was building the game. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I never really
Yeah.
played like SimCity, even SimCity, like you are building cities, quote unquote, but like you're taking like these pre-made buildings and just sort of like putting them in different or like putting them in different areas and stuff. But in Roller Coaster Tycoon, like you designed your own roller coasters. They
Yeah.
weren't not all. There are some preset. There's a lot of preset stuff actually, but like the roller coasters themselves, like the big aspect of the game was you create your own roller coaster, and I just thought it was so neat. It's so simple. I started pumping hours in that game.
Oh,
And that's
same
another game
here.
I don't. Huh?
Yeah, same here. I mean, I could. there were times where I would sit down for 5, 6 hours, like on summer vacation, and just sit there and just play Roller Coaster Tycoon and design like these things. I mean, I just remember like going into like my save files and having just like 40 parks, each one with like 18 roller coasters in it, just like because like
Yeah.
every day it's like it was one of those things where every time I opened it, I wanted to start something new.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
now like Roller Coaster Tycoon, whatever the newest one is, like I'm not excited for it. It's not. I think it was just because I was a kid. Like I'll bet this is what kids playing Minecraft feel like. I bet this is
Oh my
Minecraft.
god, that's it. Holy shit. Minecraft is Roller Coaster Tycoon for kids today. Because like
Yeah,
that was the thing. Like I remember like every one of my friends who had a computer loved Roller Coaster Tycoon.
yeah.
And the ones who
And
didn't have a
everybody had their
computer, I
own
remember,
parks and their own ways of doing the levels, and
yeah.
it's Minecraft.
Oh my gosh, yes. I don't know. That game was just so much fun, and I love that
Yeah.
game. And I think I found it. It's 31 on my list. That's like way.
Jeez, that's really high.
I played the shit out of. It's one of those games where I literally have gone back to. I mean, this came out. I don't. I should have looked up when it came out, but I feel like it came out in like mid 90s, probably 97 or 98 is my
90s,
gut
yeah, I'd
instinct.
say like mid to late 90s, yeah, for
And
sure.
I mean, I remember like this is still like one of those discs where it was like, okay, I randomly found it like 3 years later, put it into my computer, and sat down and played for like hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Found it again later, put it back into my computer, played it for hours, and this would happen every few years. And just going back to it, it's still one of those things where I feel like if I don't even have a disk drive on my computer, but I feel like if I
Mhm.
had that disk sitting here, I could put it in and sit down and play it for the next 3 hours and be very, very happy.
I feel like that's the only game that we've talked about so far that would actually be on a top 100 greatest games of all time list. Like that's
um,
legitimately just a damn good
yeah,
game.
probably.
All these other ones are like very, well, maybe la 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 la. Who knows? That
Yeah.
was just a time in my life, but no, that is one of the greatest games of all time.
Yeah.
Although maybe Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 is. I never played the second one, but the second one is the same thing.
The second one was the same thing. I had one, two, and three,
Hmm.
and I don't remember there being very many different variations. I feel like two just like expanded it. I know
Yeah, 2 is like a
three, I think
super
is
expansion pack.
yeah, three was where I think they started changing stuff because I have very like little memory of three. Like I remember getting it and going, like, oh, okay,
It was the first 3D one, and the graphics.
yeah, that was
eh,
the issue.
Yeah, and this 1 and 2 like just looked better than it, like a lot better.
Yeah, I think now that you mention it, I think that was my issue with this. I think I put it in, I was like, this is way more complicated and confusing for no reason. Because the first one is just, it's so streamlined too. There
Hmm.
was nothing, again, odd common theme going here. There was nothing challenging in that game at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's what I don't quite. Yeah, so I don't know what it is about that game. I think it's just like as a kid, you want to create things, and that's just like one of those first games you ever play that like you can create things.
Yeah.
So I really like that one. Um, oh yeah, here's one. I thought you stopped playing Splatoon. Why is Splatoon on here?
Um, I did, but I played the shit out of it right when I got it. And it's one of those games that it's still right now sitting on top of my Wii U because I still just every now and then look at it and go, damn, I should play Splatoon again. And then I don't.
But
Um,
you have it so high. It's like 56. It's like almost near your top 50 games of all time. Is Splatoon, a
I
game you played for a week.
okay. Okay, so this one almost goes against what I've said with every other game. That is a game that's fun. It's a game that I really enjoy. I did play, I mean, I probably put 15, 20 hours into Splatoon. I put a lot of time into that game when it first came out. And that's
Hmm.
not including like the 2 or 3 hours that I put into the beta weeks before it came out. But to
Yeah.
me, that game is something different. And it takes like, I really like shooter games, and that takes the idea of like a third person shooter and does something unique with it. And I don't know, when I played it, it was one of those things where it felt like this is something nobody's ever done with this before. And I
Hmm.
like the way they're doing it, and I enjoy the way they're doing it, and I'm having a ton of fun with this, even though it's something that's just a take on something very, very basic. If you took
Hmm.
Splatoon and you took out the paint aspect and you just said, okay, go shoot those other guys,
Yeah.
that game doesn't work. It's a below average shooter at best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just the creativity and the mindset that you have to go into that game with, you have to think about that game differently than you have to think about almost any other game with, because of the way that the game's designed. And just to me, that's one of those things where it's so unique, and I did have a great time with it, and I still right now I'm sitting here thinking like, damn, more done, I should play some Splatoon. but
Yeah, I was gonna say.
but it's so unique, and I really enjoyed it for that, and I think just that aspect of it I feel like deserved a spot up here for me.
Yeah, I can understand. I think a lot of these two are just like single experiences you had with games. Like I have Tekken 3 on here. I actually don't think I've ever. I think I played Tekken 3 twice.
All right, so we've been going back and forth, but fun fact here, the next one on my list is Tekken 3 96.
Yeah. Do you have Tekken
That's
3
actually
on
my
here?
next one. What?
Oh, was it really to talk about?
No, that's not my talking points. Is Tekken 3 is my next talking point.
Oh,
So since
okay.
you brought it up anyway, what's up with Tekken 3?
Well, do you not wait? Are you saying it doesn't
No,
deserve
I'm
to
just
be
curious
there?
because now you just said you only played it 2 or 3 times. I'm just curious before I say anything.
Well, Tekken 3 was probably the first fighting game I understood how to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did play more than 2 or 3 times. I played it quite a bit, like in arcades and stuff like that. I think it was one of those games like when it first came out was like mind blowing. Um, Soul
Yeah.
Calibur would probably take the cake on that one, as like being utterly mind blowing. But I just remember this. It was weird. I it was weird because I never played a fighting game before. It was weird because the characters were super weird. I think it, just in my time in life, whenever that game came out, like that's when like grittiness was cool. So like they
Mm-hmm.
have like a giant bat demon, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Then they had like a dinosaur who farts, that was awesome. And then they had like the main guy had like fire pants and like
Oh
gauntlets
yeah.
and like spiky hair.
Electricity coming out of him, and he was fighting in sandals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like you could also play as, like devils and angels. Well, they can't do that in Tekken 3. um,
Yeah, that
but
was that was
but
after that.
yeah, it was just like a really weird, unique thing to me that like it was just something I'd never seen before until that point. Like I just didn't play fighting games in general, much less 3D fighters. So it's just sort of like the first game I remember like like learning what a fighting game was and really enjoying because I also remember really um the unlock system of that game was really really hard. You had to do like a lot of weird stuff to
Oh
unlock
yeah. Yep.
characters in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you had to beat the game as all the characters, and then you had to go through like Tekken Force mode,
Yep.
and you had to do Tekken Force mode, I think, on the highest difficulty to get Dr. B. I don't think I ever actually
Yep.
got Dr. B. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just I think it was just a game in the time of my life. I don't even know right now if I even like Tekken. um,
So this is a game that you barely included on your list. It was kind of your point when you brought it up, right? Because it was kind of like a game and that's the mindset.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was kind of like
Okay.
because this was such a mind blowing game to me as a kid, it deserves a spot on here as like my lifetime of games, playing games. Um, like another one here I'd probably put here would be like Marvel vs. Capcom.
Okay.
Not because I don't even like that game very much, but I played it a lot as a kid in arcades.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so that's just like one of the time of life things.
Okay.
Um,
I
every
was
time I
just
do see Tekken news,
curious.
I'm kind of excited every time Tekken news comes out, but I don't care too much.
Okay. I was just curious about why that was at 96.
Why are you so smug? Oh, yours is at 25, isn't it?
It's number
Okay,
10.
this makes a little...
It's in my top 10.
Oh, oh, from that mindset, I can understand why you'd be cranky.
That's why you just like threw it out with like Splatoon. Like, I don't know, it was just a game that I played one time and it was kind of cool. I was like, that's my
Oh.
number 10.
Now, oh, you should have prefaced with that. I totally missed that the entire
No,
time I was talking.
that was my goal. As I was like, what are you gonna say about Tekken here? As I'm sitting here in the back of my going, like, that is one of my all time favorite games.
But would you play? Okay, we're not gonna talk too much about our top 25 unless we happen to mention it. But would you play that game
Yeah,
now? Okay, all
hell yes,
right. I would not.
hell yes.
Oh,
And
you still actually regularly buy Tekken games, don't you?
yeah, and
Yeah, okay.
again, we'll talk more about it last time. But everything you just mentioned totally went
Mm.
through and unlocked every single damn thing in that game. I would say I put upwards of 80 to 100 hours into Tekken 3.
Seriously?
Oh hell yeah.
Oh my god.
We'll talk
That
more
game
about it
also,
in like a couple episodes, but oh my
yeah,
god, do I love Tekken 3.
yeah. That game also that was actually that was actually probably one of the best like console ports ever because you had like so
Hmm.
many different like Tekken Ball mode and stuff on top of Tekken
Oh yeah.
Force
Oh, I
and
played
all
so
these
much.
cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll talk
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
later. Okay, what I want to talk about, just because it's the era of the time, is Sly Cooper. Yeah, I see Sly Cooper
Ooh,
on
yes.
here, but I see, unless they're in the top 25, I don't see any Jack and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank. So you got some explaining to do.
Um, Ratchet and Clank, I've played two, both of them on PS3. I played Into the Nexus, and whichever one is sitting on my shelf that I played half of.
That is so crazy to me. I can't believe you owned a PS. Why'd you skip Ratchet? Like that's a weird one to skip.
I don't, I honestly don't remember. It was just like one of those things where I will tell you, PS2 era, I was much more of an Xbox person. So if that came out
Oh.
anywhere near a Halo game, no way in hell I was touching it. So that would probably be part of it. I think it's just one of those things where I just missed it and I never really went back and played it. It's one of those series that I look back and go, man, I really should go back and play those. I
hmm
just never got around to it. So that's why that's not there. Jack and Daxter, I've only played the first one, and I actually just played that for the first time like 2 years ago.
Oh, real? Wow. I didn't realize you were
Yeah,
like that new to it. Okay.
yeah. So I've only played the first Jack. I know Jack 2 is different, and I don't know anything else about it other than it's different than the first one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've only played the first one. I just recently played it, so I like it. But I think because I played it 10 to 15 years removed from when it was released, it just didn't have the impact on me. But
Yeah.
Sly Cooper was just—it's a fun platformer that I think takes platforming in a very different direction than any other game does. There
Did
are
you play
very
that
few.
one? Did you play that one as a kid though? You played Sly as a
Yeah,
kid then.
I played the whole Sly series as a kid, and I don't know why I gravitated towards that one, but that's the one I
Because
went with.
I don't like Sly at all. I don't like that
Really?
series at all. You know
Why?
what it is? This is one of those things, like there's certain games I don't like for very stupid reasons, and Sly is one of those games I don't like for a very stupid reason. The jumping feels weird to me. It feels super weird, and
Okay.
this and like I tried playing like Sly 4 recently, and it still has a super weird floaty jump. Like they
Yeah.
kind of like,
Yeah.
I don't, he like flutters. I don't know. I don't know how to
Yeah.
describe it. um,
I don't know. It's just it does. I don't. I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the best platformer, but it's one that I like, and I've played through every single Sly Cooper game, and I
mhm.
liked pretty much all of them. It gets a little. I get a little less enthused when you have to start playing as all the side characters. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think
Yeah,
just the idea that
mhm.
it's different. Every other platformer is get to the goal, just run through the level. This one is okay, you have to sneak around, you have to try and do these little different things. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know,
I
it just
guess that's
felt
true.
different than a lot of the other ones.
There's like a million little mini games of that one too. I don't know. I don't know why I never did. Because like I tried. Because I remember as a kid, like I had to choose, but you didn't really choose, but you had your favorite between Jack, Ratchet, and Sly, and I played all of them. Jack and Ratchet kind of went back and forth on like which one was my favorite. But yeah, I don't know what it was about Sly. There's always a few games though, like that one I said the jumping is weird,
Yeah,
and
I don't
that's
know.
like literally the only reason I have against the game. Another thing, this is just completely random off topic. I will never play a turn-based RPG where it's first-person view ever. I can't.
Wait,
Like
a
Dragon
what? A
Quest is like that.
turn-based like
Like JRPGs, like when the enemies are facing you and you can't see your characters and they just get like slashed or whatever. It's in a lot of like DS games and a lot of Super Nintendo games like Dragon Quest and stuff like that. It's such a
oh, okay.
minor annoyance, but I will never play a game like that.
Gotcha. But yeah, I don't know. I it's one of those things, and again, 3D platformers to me, most of mine
hmm
on my list, like Banjo Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Super Mario 64, both most of my 3D platformers go back to the N64 era.
hmm
So I think that's kind of where we differ a little bit. Is that to me, 3D platforming like is at its strongest in that time. Banjo Kazooie, Donkey Kong, those types of games
hmm
to me, that is when I think 3D platformer. That's what I want versus like you, who I think feel like got your start with those more on the PS2 with Jack and Ratchet and Sly. I think it's just that kind of different systems growing up, different places.
Yeah, in PS1 platformers, you had like Spyro,
I do like Spyro,
and that's about it. But like 3D platformer wise, like all you had is Spyro. There really weren't
pretty much.
many.
Yeah,
There were like Crash doesn't really count. It's 3D, but it's more like 2.5D.
yeah,
Um, so
and I
yeah,
think
that
that's
free.
why those.
Mhm.
I think that's why those games show up on your list, and then like you don't have Banjo-Kazooie on your list. You don't have Super Mario 64 on your list, because those games kind of take the place of that for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think. I didn't even think about it. Yeah, it's because that's when I first started getting to 3D platforms. I think everybody's like first few 3D platformers are their favorite 3D platformers because that's what they think of
Yeah.
every time.
Yep.
I'm so excited for Ukulele, even though it's an N64 one and not a PS2
Oh,
era, I
I'm
guess.
so excited for that one.
Yeah. So I guess kind of moving on, like what, okay, just like sort of like wrap up. The reason we kind of hid what was our 26th from each other, and the reason I kind of want to do that is because I feel like the 26th game is a game that didn't get into your top 25.
Yep.
And I actually thought kind of long and hard about my 26. Like, okay, basically, what did I want in 25, and what kicked out? Um, what did it kick out? So, what was your 26th favorite game, and why did it not make your top 25?
So I had that same thing, and my 26th game is when we originally talked about this, and this is why it's not my top 25, is we had originally said, okay, well, we'll make the full 100, we'll just talk top 25. And I moved this game out because I went, I like it, but everybody likes it. I have nothing new to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those games where it's like, yeah, I like it, but I don't. The other games in my top 25, I can sit here and I can tell you specifically why I like it, and I can tell you why that's a great game,
Mm-hmm.
and I can be really passionate about that game. This is a game that I just go, yeah, it's awesome. Let's be real. It's Portal. Portal is awesome,
Oh, okay, yeah.
right? Nobody's gonna disagree and go, I don't know. Portal's kind of terrible. It's Portal. Like, come on now.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I could
So,
see that one. Mm-hmm.
so it's more of just like it's not in my top 25 because it is what it is. I'm looking at other games like Tekken 3 I mentioned in there. Like, I can sit here and I could talk for a long time about why I love Tekken 3.
Mm-hmm.
Portal, I can say, just like everybody else, it's unique, it's fun, it's challenging, it's Portal.
Yeah, I feel like not a lot of people. I feel like not a lot of people who are our age anyway have a unique experience with Portal. Like a lot of these games we talked about is like, oh, from my childhood, that's why I like this game is because the specific period in time, and I like these types of games. But like Portal, kind of like everybody I felt kind of had the same experience, like the same learning through it because the game is specifically designed for everybody to sort of learn the same. So everybody
Yeah,
has like a very similar experience with Portal, which I think is why it's kind of a hard game to talk about. Everybody's like, yeah, no, that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened to me. It's because
yeah,
the game is so tightly designed that everybody has a similar experience. Still a damn
absolutely.
good game
Oh,
though.
it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I felt bad about this for my 26. Painkiller. Because
You love Painkiller.
I love Painkiller. I love Painkiller. I've been Painkiller like a number of times. I'm trying to think. I think I kicked it out. Why did I kick out this game? Now I don't know why. Why did I? You know what it was? It's just
And
because
this,
the other 25 I enjoyed more, and that was it. Like this game would be in
what's
my
really
top
funny
25.
what's really funny is that's the way you make a list. So you basically said it's 26 because that's how you make a list.
No. But I feel like there's a special thing of like kicking it out. Like I really sat there and thought, it's like, do I like? I actually went through each of these games. Like, do I like this game more than Painkiller? And I
Mhm.
did. I felt bad about that because you know what it is. I think Painkiller to me, like my top 25, I have a really hard time finding faults with. But
Yes.
Painkiller is full of faults. There's so many glaring faults in that game. There's so much like a lot of levels really suck. All the expansion packs are terrible. There's some levels that are just god awful. Some of the weapons aren't very fun. Um, but the core experience is so damn good. It's just that the
Hmm.
other games, the core experience is so damn good, and everything else is really good on top of it.
And
Because I feel, yeah.
I think that's a good point because once you get to 25, at least for me, I started getting very far away from those games of I think this was just a good experience, like Splatoon
Hmm.
or like Final Fantasy 13, where it's games or Bulletstorm. All of those games are games where it's like, yeah, it's a good game, but it has some connection to me. There's a reason
Hmm.
why I like that other people don't. Looking at my top 25, most of these are games that it's like, okay, no, those are just a damn good game, and I could sit here and talk for a while about, and I could not find a fault with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I completely understand that.
And I kind of want to keep my top 25 list kind of like impeccable. Like I want these to be irrefutable.
Oh, I will tell you right now, mine is not even close to that.
Oh, really?
There are 2 or 3
Oh,
games.
because it's not all Halo and Gears.
Well, no, I mean Halo. Okay, Halo is my number one thing, and literally on spot number 1, it just says Halo parentheses 1 through 4 parentheses 2's probably my favorite.
Dude, spoilers. You can't just say that. I can't just say what your number one is. We gotta lead up to it. You gotta have a lot of editing
Oh,
and like
did
zooming in on
you
titles.
did you have any doubt that it would be anything else? Let's be real.
I really did. I really did. That kind of surprised me. I might edit that out.
Whatever. Anyway.
No. Yeah, but I feel like, but I think I thought more about my top 25 than I did the other ones. Like the other ones, like, yeah, I really like that game. Okay, now maybe is it 50 or 70 or 80? I don't know. Does it really matter?
Just throw it somewhere in that list. Yep.
Huh?
I said, yeah, just throw it somewhere in that list.
Yeah, but like that top 25 is like, I need to think each an individual game about how I want to move these.
It's interesting that you did that at 25, because mine was like 1 through 10. I was very specific with, and then like I had just like a list of stuff that's like, okay, this is probably top 25, and then just kind of like haphazardly ordered those in there. And then after 25, I was just like, I like these games, and I just basically made like a giant list of like all the games that I really really like that come to mind after like looking through stuff, and just started going, that one's in there somewhere, that one's in there somewhere, that one's in there.
And then so look forward for my impeccable list and Brad's haphazard list.
Not haphazard, just there's some games in here that some people will look and go, why the hell is that one of the top 20 games ever?
Yeah, and hopefully hopefully we'll get to talk about that in the future.
Yeah. But anyway, so we'll see if when we get back to this, but sometime in the next couple of weeks, we will for sure be putting up kind of our talks about top 25 games. Just our favorite 25 games. So depending on how slow things go next week, if there's actually some fun news to talk about other than depressing things or, just stuff that's not important.
Next week? Are you kidding me? We're going to have our super awesome Sony press conference, Paris, Games Week.
Oh, yeah, that's next week. Next week
we'll do that. There's going to be a lot of news next week.
Next week we'll do that. And I'm pretty sure Doug thinks No Man's Sky is coming out next week.
I want to almost bet on that. Okay, we're going to talk about that real quick. He has not been allowed to talk about his release date.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
No developer is not allowed to. I've never seen a developer not allowed to talk about it. He specifically says he's not allowed to say what the release date is.
Yep.
I've seen ones where they're like, oh, well, we haven't decided on it. He's like the first developer I ever heard, we can't talk about the release date, which means it's a secret release date, which means Paris Games Week.
But it also could just be that everybody's always told you can't talk about it, and they just, instead of going like, no, the higher ups say I can't talk about it, they just go, we're still discussing when it'll be released. Like, it's just a matter
because
of
they're smart about it, and he's just kind of
and he's just like new small indie developer who all of a sudden has like the hugest game in the world, and
he doesn't know what to not say.
Exactly. And like, in my mind, like, they put him on Stephen Colbert like 2 weeks ago. If you knew it was coming the next month, there are literally way more people watching that, and you're gonna get way bigger response to release date from there than you would be just, oh yeah, Paris Games Week, it's coming out right now. That's gonna get you like the Sony people like amped as hell, but you're not gonna get the like mass audience that you want.
That is true, and like the Sony press conference is really late at night. That is the only doubt that I have in my mind.
Well, I think it's
America. I think it's at like can't tell. I think it's like midnight or something in Eastern time.
Yeah, which means it's probably at a normal time in other parts of the world. It's not all about you, Doug.
No, but it is about America.
Damn it. Okay, on that note, that'll wrap this episode up. Thank you for listening. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Darksliders_pod. And then subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeartRadio, etc., etc., etc.
So much stuff.
Yeah. You would think with all that stuff we'd be popular, but we're not.
All right. We need to cut down some of that stuff.
I don't know. All right. See you next week.
Bye.